Alright, so solving more quadratic equations. So we're given f of x equals x squared plus 5 and asked for what values of x the function will be equal to 30. Okay, so in here we're being asked to find the inputs that will give us an output of 30. Okay. So to answer that question involves solving the following equation. So for f of x, we're going to replace that with 30 and get x squared plus 5. Okay. So we should notice that we have a quadratic equation and not a linear equation. We've got an x squared term, and again we can have optional constant or x terms. And to solve a quadratic equation, we want to be able to use the zero factor property, which means we want to get this in a form where we have 0 equal, and on the other side we have our expression factored. So if we're looking at what we have now, we don't have any of this. Okay, so we start by getting a 0. So we're going to subtract 30 from both sides, and we'll get 0 equals x squared minus 25. Okay, so now we've got 0 equals, but we don't have a factored expression on the other side. Okay, we should recognize here that we have a difference of squares. And so to factor that expression, we're going to write that as x plus 5 times x minus 5. So now we have two quantities being multiplied that equal 0. So at least one of these quantities has to be equal to 0. So this would give us x equals negative 5 when we subtract 5 from both sides, and here if we add 5 to both sides, we get x equal to 5. So the problem asks us for the values of x. So in my stat lab we would enter this answer like this, okay, where we've got, actually it gives us the x equals, and then we have a box to put our answers in, and it's a list of x values separated by commas. This is not an ordered pair. Okay, but if we do think about the graph of f of x, we do know that an input of negative 5 gives us an output of 30. So there's an ordered pair on the graph. And we also know for an input of 5, the output is also 30. Alright, so in example 7, we're told that the price of one product in dollars is given as f of x equals x plus 6. So we should recognize that this is linear. And the price of another product is given as g of x equals x squared. We should recognize that this is quadratic, where x is the number of years since 2010. And we want to know when the prices of the products will be the same. Okay. So we want to solve the following system. Okay. So if we use y equals x plus 6, y equals x squared. And this is set up nicely, since it's already solved for y, to use the substitution method. So we're going to get x plus 6 equals x squared. Again, we should recognize that it's quadratic, and so our goal to get this solved is to get this in the form 0 equals some factors, product of factors. Okay, so we're going to subtract x and subtract 6 from both sides. So we get 0 equals x squared minus x minus 6. So now we have it 0 equals, but now we need factors over here so that we can use our zero factor property. So we're going to factor this. X times x will give us x squared, and negative 3 times positive 2 not only give us negative 6, but also give us the right coefficient on our middle term. So now either x minus 3 equals 0 or x plus 2 equals 0. So x equals 3 or x equals negative 2. So now, the context of the problem. We get the units back on there. X is number of years since 2010. So 3 years since 2010 would be in the year 2013. And then we had x was negative 2 years since 2010. So this would be 2 years before 2010. So that would be in the year 2008. Okay. So we've got actually at 2 different points in time that our prices would be the same. Okay, so let's look at a graph to see what's going on. Okay, so it says to use the intersect feature to solve the same system that we just did using the substitution method. So we're going to push y equals, and next to y1, let it be x plus 6, and next to y2, let that be x squared. And then we can push zoom 6, and we get a graph that looks something like this. So here's our quadratic equation, y equals x squared, and then our linear equation. Okay. So this one is our y1, and that is the graph of y2. Okay. And we can see that we have these two intersection points. Okay, so to find those, we're going to push second trace 5, because again, that's our intersect feature, and enter, enter. Okay, but now we have 2 points for it to find. So we're going to put the cursor, so you're going to use your arrow keys, okay, to put the cursors near one of the intersection points. So try to put your cursor somewhere near over here where they cross, and then push enter again. Okay, and we will get the intersection point -2 and 4. We'll come back with the context here in a second. And then again, we're going to push second trace 5 to call it the intersect feature, enter, enter. But then for our guess, now we're going to put the cursor up close to the second point and push enter. And it will give us the coordinates at that point are 3, 9. Okay. So this tells us in context that in 2008, prices of both products, price of both products was $4. And 3 years since 2000 and what year were we going? Since 2010, so in 2013, again, price of both products was the same, only there they were both $9. So this kind of had this steady increase in price. Our other product kind of dropped in price to the point of free, evidently, and came back up in price and met again here in the year 2013.